I'm just going to leave you with that sight. Look how beautiful that is. And like I said, it don't matter if they're not round, still going to be absolutely baller. Share it out. I mean, I can only advertise on Facebook, really. Put stuff up on Instagram, but you can't put a link on Instagram, and Facebook's the only place I'm at. I use Reddit, but then I try and advertise stuff on Reddit, and people go like, oh, you can't advertise your stuff on Reddit. So, here we are. Roll out. Roll out. That's ludicrous, isn't it? What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of something else, but a soft pasta dough. Cracked my little toe on the door. I haven't broke it, but it's fucking hurts. Anyway, right. Jesus Christ. Right, I need a measuring spoon. We're going to make tortillas. Now, I kid you not, there is no bigger flex than making your own tortillas. I said in the guac video, and I've made pico and all those sort of things, that making them all yourself is so much nicer than buying them ready-made. Tortillas take that to the nth degree. Like, homemade tortillas versus packaged ready-made tortillas, there was no comparison whatsoever. They slap so hard, it's not even funny. And they're really easy to make. Granted, opening a packet of tortillas takes seconds, whereas this is going to take 20 minutes or so. But it is so worth it. Try it once. You don't need much. Flour. This is your standard plain flour. I've got 350 grams of plain flour here. Extra for dusting. We'll come to that later. To this, all we need to add is a teaspoon and a half of baking powder. Like that. Doesn't have to be super precise. And a teaspoon of salt. Like that. Give that a mix together. To this, we are going to add... traditionally, you'd use lard. 30 grams of lard, we'd chuck in there. And you know the way you make a crumble? I don't know if you do, but if you don't know how to make a crumble, you work butter into flour to make like little crumbly, sandy sort of texture. I haven't got any lard to hand, but really all we need is fat. So instead of using 30 grams of lard, I'm going to use 3 tablespoons of oil. I wouldn't use olive oil. I'd use vegetable oil, sunflower oil. This is rapeseed oil. One of the sort of oils used for frying. Now, to begin with, I'm going to mix that in with a spoon. Just mostly so my hands don't get super messy. But as soon as it's sort of not a liquid bowl of oil in the middle, oh, my hands are going to get messy anyway. You want to sort of pinch and roll the dough. It's not dough yet. The flour and the oil. So you can see at the moment you've got like big chunks of flour and oil. You want to break them all down until you get the consistency of kind of like sand, slightly damp sand. Right, so once that's all crumbled in and bigger chunks of oily flour have been broken down into smaller little chunks of oily flour, we're gonna measure out about 190 ml of hot water. Now, I don't mean boiling. I don't know if using boiling would be a bad thing. Not sure. But you do want it quite hot. Not so hot that you can't put your hands in it. Just to the point where it's like a hot bath. Like it's just about comfortable, but anything more and you'd be having issues. Thankfully my hot tap runs very hot indeed, so I can just get myself some water like that, be right back. Now, we're gonna put in our water. And give it a mix. Incorporate all that flour into the water. And you start to get a really loose, shaggy dough start to form. So, we are now going to... You get to this sort of point where you can't really do much more with a spoon. Scrape it all down off your spoon. And you want a nice clean deck. So now we're gonna, with our hands, knead it all together in the bowl, incorporating all of that, getting it all into one big homogeneous lump. You want all of the flour together, and then dump it all out onto your clean countertop. Get everything as much out as you can. And we're just going to give it a bit of a knead. Now, we're not making bread. Well, we are making bread, we're making flatbread. But we're not making like a proper yeasted bread where we need to knead it and knead it and knead it to develop a gluten network. What we're essentially trying to do is just get all the flour equally hydrated. We probably are building gluten. I'm not 100% sure how gluten works and all that sort of stuff. I would imagine we are building gluten. But you just want to give it a knead. But what we're really doing is kind of almost like the way you'd make pasta. So we're giving this a knead so that it all combines, equally hydrates, gets to the consistency we want it. It will get more and more hydrogenous, I think is the right word. It'll start to get a bit sticky and tacky, but not overly sticky and tacky, so you have to worry. And you're essentially going to end up to a point where it's quite a nice dough. It's kind of a bit, give it a slap, seeing it springs out and contracts back in again. Kind of like a slightly damp, sticky Play-Doh. I've got to knead the crap out of it. Like I said, we're not making a risen bread that we're going to need a gluten structure to hold air bubbles and pockets and stuff, stop it from collapsing. So once it's all come together and you've got like a nice consistent texture, it's not crumbly anymore, it's solid. If you poke it, it will spring back to a certain degree, kind of like a soft pasta dough. Now we're going to whack that back in the bowl. I'm just going to let it rest for 10 minutes. We need it to relax back a bit so that we can just portion it out and roll it out into tortillas. So we're going to rest that for 10 minutes. This is going to make 16 smaller taco size flour tortillas. You can make them twice as big and make 8, but it's a lot more rolling work. If you've got a tortilla press, get that out, get that ready. Also, we're going to cook these in a hot frying pan. No oil, we don't want it dry. And you're also going to want a couple of clean tea towels. And I'll go for that why. But back in about 10 minutes while this relaxes. Okay, right, back. About 10 minutes, or it doesn't have to be 10 minutes exactly. It can be as long as you want. Like, if you stick a bit of cling film over it, or a tea towel, you might want a damp tea towel, slightly damp tea towel, just so that it doesn't dry right out. But leave it a couple of hours. I mean, I wouldn't make it a day ahead or anything, but you can leave it quite a while. Right, so this size dough will make about 16 taco size tortillas. Easiest way to go though is get your scales, zero them out, make sure they're on a sensible measuring system, so like grams. That's 571, let's call it 578, and I'm going to divide that by 16. 570 divided by 16. So yeah, should be about 35 grams a pop. So you want pull apart 35-gram balls. Doesn't matter if they're much over, but try not to go crazy. Like, make them each as close to 35 as possible. Only because what you'll end up with right at the end is you'll end up with a ball that's miles too small. But get them together, roll them together like so. Pop them to one side. So yeah, go through, measure out. You should get 16 35-gram balls. 16 perfectly proportioned balls. Now, here's the part where you're going to preheat your pans, or pan. Go at your own speed. Take your time. You want them quite hot, but we'll get to that in a second. What we're going to do first is roll one out. So, you just want to ever so lightly dust the flour. You don't need to worry about it sticking too much. It's quite a reasonable dough to work with. Now, from the ball, what you want to do is using the pad of your hand, of your thumb, just gently, not so gently, but squeeze it out in a circular motion around like that and try and get it into a circle as best as possible. So if you start with decently round, you tend to get a decently round tortilla. That's the hardest part of this, is making these round. But I don't care if they are particularly round, because I think they're quite rustic. The first couple you make are always going to be crap, they're like pancakes. But lightly with your rolling pin, if you've got a rolling pin, you can use an empty, no, not an empty, use a full can, use a full can of beer. That works quite well because it's quite small. Wine bottle, anything. Rolling pins are handy to have though, so you might as well get yourself one. But what I find the easiest way is just start at the middle and roll back to the side and then turn it a couple of degrees. So turn it like an 1/8 round and then just keep going around like that, rolling out from the middle. Keep going around like that. Now you're gonna get the urge, start pressing harder and rolling more, and then what you're going to end up with is not a circle. I mean, you can see this is already not a circle, and it's nigh on impossible. I mean, there's abuelas out in Mexico that can do this with their eyes shut and make perfect rounds, I imagine, but I haven't got years and years of experience doing this. You see this one's already starting to go. You can sort of like a pizza dough, pull it a bit if you want to try and make it round, but like I said, I wouldn't worry too much about making them perfectly round. It's going to taste great, it's going to look good, it's going to be a bit more rustic, but with a bit of practice you'll start to maybe get them a bit more rounder. What you want to do is roll them out to, like I said, so they're about 6, maybe not even that much actually, probably more like 3 to 4 inches. 4 to 6 inches, let's say. Really what you want to do is go with the thickness. You want a thickness of about 3 millimeters. Really quite thin, not quite paper thin, because obviously paper's less than a mil. But just keep rotating it and rolling it until eventually you'll get to sort of thinness where you can't quite see through it, but you get a decent, like you can see the light through it, and it's very thin. You'll just get a feel for it. I mean, if you've got a tire depth gauge, one of the old school ones, I mean, you could probably use that, but I don't know how else you'd measure it. If you've got a tortilla press, now's the time to use it. Or you can, I haven't tried it, but apparently you can try smushing it between 2 books. Right, so that's our first one rolled out. I ain't done too bad there if I say so myself. Now you've got a choice. You can cook that, put it in the pan, roll out another one. Cook them, roll them, cook them, roll them. Or you kind of get ahead of yourself a bit. So I'm going to roll a couple of them out in one go, and then I'm going to cook a couple of them in one go, and then go like that. If you're going to do that, what you want to do is lightly flour the bottom of this plate, just so it doesn't stick to the plate, and lightly flour the top of the tortilla, just so it doesn't stick to the next tortilla that you put on top of it. Okay, so then just roll that up, not roll it up, but roll an edge up so you can get hold of it. Pop that on the plate. Now, if you're really quick, and you get a knack for rolling these out quickly, what you can do is roll the whole lot out. But I haven't got that. I'm not that quick yet. So what you don't want to do is make a big massive stack of these, and the one on the bottom and all the bottom ones are starting to fuse together. And then you'll get in trouble trying to peel them apart if that happens. So I'm going to roll a couple out, come back and I'll show you how to cook them. Oh, I meant to say as well, if you're trying to roll them out and they won't roll out, they keep springing back, let them rest for a little bit longer. Just leave, once you've made them into balls, leave them on the side and let them rest for another 5-10 minutes. You just need that gluten to relax so that you can roll it out. Similar to if you ever made focaccia or pizza dough, things like that. If you don't let it relax a little bit and give it some time, it will just be too springy and you'll never get it to roll out. Right, so 4 deep. I'm going to start cooking. I'm going to cook a couple to show you how we go about that. So, pans are nice and hot. You really do want them quite warm. Preheat them for a while as well. And you're going to want either tongs or spatula. Where's my spatula? That'll do. Just something to flip them over with. Now, what you kind of want to do is, if you get them lightly on your fingers and just throw them gently and carefully, one hand to the other, toss it from one hand to the other just to knock off any spare dust. And then on your flour, on your hand like that, just into the pan like that. Same again with the other one, or take your time, cook them one by one, quickly up to you. But what we've got on the side here, if you haven't got a tortilla warmer, which probably haven't, I don't know many people in the UK that do, 2 clean tea towels, one on the plate, the other one is going to go on top. What we're going to do is we're going to put the tortillas in here when they're cooked. Cover them up with the tea towel, keeps them warm, but also it kind of almost acts like a little bit of an oven. It just cooks them through a little and makes them a little bit fluffier on the inside. Now, if you get good at this, what you can do is be rolling out another one, or dropping them on the floor. You can be rolling out another one where these are cooking. But for now, I'm just going to concentrate on these. So, what you should see, actually, let me get my phone camera out and record it on here. I think you should be able to see, you see it's starting to pop up, puff up a little bit on that one side. You can see, it's hard to get an angle where you can see it. You get little, what are they called? Air pockets starting to inflate and puff up. So once you start to get quite a few little air pockets, just want to flip it over. And you'll see it's starting to, get little char marks. It's starting to brown. You're going to leave the next side a little bit longer so you get proper nice like leopard spot chars on it. Flip it over again and do it again on this side. Right, let me have a camera on it. So I just flipped it over, and you want to let it get like a bit of blackening char on it. Don't be afraid to let it go a fair bit. Oh, I've got burning my fingers. Get some proper nice little dark spots on there. Close the door in case the fire alarm goes off, because it's can get a bit smoky. And then once the other side got a similar sort of blackening, not blackening, but leopard spot charring, we're gonna pop them off, take them out, chuck them in our little tea towel, keep warm oveny jobby. Pop them both in there, tea towel over, keep them warm, and like I said, it kind of helps cook them through that little bit extra. And you can sort of get a decent little, if you pre-roll a couple, and get a decent sort of production line going. But like I said, unless you work really quick, don't stack too many up on a plate, because they will start to stick to each other unless you heavily dust them. And the problem with heavily dusting them is you need to knock all that dust off, and it's just a waste. Alright, last couple coming out. Right, now, like I said, leave them, the last couple, they kind of need that, like I said, that oven effect that just kind of cooks them through. That, I mean, they're cooked through, they'll be fine, but they'll just soften up and become a little bit more pliable, and they'll just work a little bit better for tacos and stuff. There you go. These are beautiful, pretty, absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, there is no bigger flex. If you have guys come around for tacos, you make your own tortillas, they will knock it out of the park. Even if you don't have particularly good things to put inside homemade tortillas just slap it out, like they just slap. So, I mean, they just, try it. Trust me, it doesn't take that long. It's a good afternoon. You make them with the kids. Like, obviously, don't let them mess about with scorching hot pans. But they're rolling them out. You haven't got to get them perfectly round. If you want to get yourself a tortilla press, or like, I think you can do a squeezy thing with 2 books or a hot, heavy pan. I'm just going to leave you with that sight. Look how beautiful that is. And like I said, it don't matter if they're not round. It's still going to be absolutely baller. once they've all cooled down, if you want to keep them a little bit, keep them in a like a freezer bag, zip top bag. Keep them in the fridge. Make them just last a little bit longer. You'll only get a couple of days out of them, but they ain't gonna last a couple of days. You can freeze them if you want. Adios, amigos. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit me up on Instagram. Share it as well. Like, some people are watching stuff. Share it out. I mean, I can only advertise on Facebook, really. Put stuff up on Instagram, but you can't put a link on Instagram, and Facebook's the only place I'm at. I use Reddit, but then I try and advertise stuff on Reddit, and people go like, oh, you can't advertise your stuff on Reddit. So, here we are. But yeah, alright then peeps. I'll see you when I see us. I'm going to go make some stuff to chuck in these, and I'm going to go chow down on some tacos. So yeah, alright then. Laters, taters.